The Texas sun beat down mercilessly as our family gathered at the old ranch house for the reading of Grandpa Joe's will. My brothers, Thomas and Richard, sat in their expensive suits, sweat already staining their collars. Mom dabbed her face with a monogrammed handkerchief while Dad stood stoically by the window, overlooking the vast expanse of seemingly worthless desert land that had been in our family for generations. And to my grandsons Thomas and Richard Martinez, the lawyer read, adjusting his glasses, I leave the northern cattle ranges, including all operational equipment, livestock, and the working oil wells. My brothers exchanged satisfied smirks. To my youngest grandchild, Elena, the lawyer continued, I leave the southern portion, lots 23 through 48 of the desert territory. The wasteland. Thomas snorted. Seems fitting. I kept my face carefully neutral, remembering the satellite images hidden in my bag. 6 months ago, I'd used my geology degree, the one my family called useless, to commission a private survey of the land. What they saw as worthless desert I recognized as something else entirely. At least you got something, dear, Mom said with fake sympathy. Though I'm not sure what you'll do with all that sand. Richard laughed, already checking oil prices on his phone. Maybe she can start a cactus farm. That's about all that grows out there. The property divisions will be officially recorded tomorrow, the lawyer announced, gathering his papers. Though I must say, Elena, your grandfather mentioned you specifically requested that southern portion during his last days. All eyes turned to me. Sentimental value, I said softly. Grandpa used to take me exploring out there when I was little. Dad shook his head. Joe always did humor your odd interests. Rock collecting, mineral sampling. All those summers you wasted out there with him instead of learning the family business. If they only knew those wasted summers had taught me to read the land like a book. Grandpa, a geologist himself, had seen the same signs I did. He'd known what was coming. Well, Thomas stood, straightening his tie, I need to call our oil contractors. Those wells aren't going to manage themselves. He paused, smirking. Have fun with your sand dunes, little sister. I watched them leave one by one. My brothers to their profitable oil fields, my parents to their ranch house, the lawyer to his air-conditioned office in town. Only then did I pull out the satellite survey results, spreading them across the old kitchen table. The images showed what 3 separate geological surveys had confirmed. The world's largest lithium deposit, sitting right beneath those worthless sand dunes. Worth billions in today's electric vehicle market, and I owned every inch of it. My phone buzzed. A message from the mining company I'd been secretly negotiating with for months. Final contracts ready. Press release scheduled for 9 a.m. tomorrow. I walked out onto the porch, watching the sun set over my desert. Tomorrow the world would know that the largest battery-grade lithium deposit ever discovered was sitting under this wasteland. Tesla, Ford, and every major electric vehicle manufacturer would be scrambling to secure contracts. And my brother's oil wells would suddenly seem very, very small indeed. I smiled, remembering Grandpa's last words to me. You always saw what others missed, Elena. Just like me. The desert wind kicked up, sending swirls of sand dancing across my land. Somewhere beneath those dunes lay enough lithium to power the world's electric revolution for decades to come. Tomorrow would change everything. But tonight, I had one last sunset to enjoy as the girl with the worthless inheritance. As night fell over the desert, I drove my old Jeep out to my favorite spot, a high ridge overlooking the southern territory. The headlights caught glimpses of crystalline formations in the soil, signs that had been there all along for anyone who knew how to read them. My phone buzzed again. This time it was from Dr. Sarah Chin, my former geology professor and now head of the exploration team. Elena, final mineral density reports just came in. It's even bigger than we thought. Estimated value now exceeding $12 billion. I let out a slow breath, remembering all the condescending comments over the years. Geology? What kind of career is that for a Martinez? Dad had scoffed at my college choice. Still playing with rocks? Thomas would tease whenever I came home with soil samples. Such a waste of potential, Mom would sigh, watching me pore over geological maps. Only Grandpa had understood. He'd spent decades quietly buying up this worthless land, piecing together parcels that others eagerly sold off. He'd known what was coming, the electric vehicle revolution, the desperate need for lithium, the changing energy landscape that would make his son's oil wells obsolete. I pulled out my laptop, connecting to the satellite Wi-Fi I'd secretly had installed months ago. The mining company's final proposal glowed on the screen. $2.8 billion upfront for initial extraction rights, plus 25% of ongoing operations. They'd already set up shell companies to keep everything quiet until tomorrow's announcement. Another message popped up, this time from my environmental team. Green extraction methods confirmed. Zero groundwater impact. All sustainability metrics exceeded. That had been non-negotiable. This land would be developed, but on my terms. Sustainable, responsible, and with minimal environmental impact. The future of energy didn't have to repeat the mistakes of the past. My brothers were probably celebrating right now, counting their oil profits. They had no idea that tomorrow's announcement would reshape the entire region's economy. Electric vehicle manufacturers would flood the area, bringing thousands of high-paying jobs. The worthless desert would become the heart of America's green energy revolution. I picked up a handful of sand, letting it slip through my fingers. Somewhere down there, lithium-rich brine pools stretched for miles, worth more than all the oil in Texas. And thanks to Grandpa's foresight and my family's blindness, it was all mine. My phone lit up with one final message, this time from the PR team. Press conference set. Major networks confirmed. Stock markets on notice. I started the Jeep's engine, taking one last look at my kingdom. Tomorrow everyone would know its true value. Tomorrow the rock collector would become one of the most powerful players in the global energy market. But tonight, under a star-filled Texas sky, I was still just Elena Martinez, the girl who got the worthless piece of the inheritance. And that made the coming dawn all the sweeter. As I drove back toward the ranch house, I passed my brother's oil derricks, their flames flickering against the night sky like dying stars. Soon those flames would be replaced by something far more valuable. Something that would power not just vehicles but the future itself. Grandpa had been right all along. Sometimes the real treasure isn't what you can see on the surface. Sometimes you have to look deeper, think longer, and wait for the perfect moment to reveal what others were too blind to see. The next morning, I arrived early at the Martinez Oil Company's annual shareholder meeting. My brothers had graciously invited me, probably expecting to showcase their oil empire while I sat quietly in the corner with my worthless inheritance. The company boardroom was filling up with local oil executives, investors, and family friends. Thomas and Richard stood at the front, practiced smiles in place as they prepared to present their quarterly earnings. I chose a seat in the back, laptop ready. "Ladies and gentlemen," Thomas began, clicking to his first PowerPoint slide. "As you can see, our Q3 oil production has exceeded." My phone vibrated. CNBC breaking news alert in 5 minutes. Richard was now pointing to profit projections. "And with our new drilling sites, we expect revenues to increase by." The wall-mounted TV in the boardroom, usually showing oil prices, suddenly switched to breaking news. The CNBC anchor's voice cut through Richard's presentation. "Breaking news. The world's largest lithium deposit has just been discovered in Texas, potentially revolutionizing the electric vehicle industry." The room fell silent. Richard's laser pointer dropped. Initial surveys indicate the deposit, located in previously overlooked desert territory, contains enough battery-grade lithium to supply the global EV market for decades. The land owned by Elena Martinez. Every head in the room turned toward me. That's your worthless desert," Thomas stuttered, his face draining of color. I opened my laptop, projecting the geological surveys onto the main screen. "Actually, let me help with this presentation. As you can see, the lithium brine deposits extend throughout the Southern Territory, with an estimated value of $12 billion. The anchor continued. Major EV manufacturers are already scrambling to secure contracts. Tesla stock has jumped 15% on the news, while traditional oil company shares. "Impossible," Dad whispered, watching our family's oil company stock price begin to plummet on the ticker below the news. I stood up, smoothing my designer suit. No more casual field clothes today. "I've already signed preliminary agreements with 5 major manufacturers. The sustainable extraction operation begins next month." Richard grabbed his phone, frantically calling his oil investors. But it was too late. The market was already reacting to the shift in energy dynamics. "The mining rights alone," I continued, clicking to the next slide, are worth more than all the oil wells in the county combined. And this is just the beginning. Mom sank into a chair, her perfectly manicured hand clutching her pearl necklace. Elena, how long have you known? Remember all those useless geology surveys? The weird rock samples? The wasted time studying mineral deposits? I pulled up another document. Grandpa knew too. That's why he left me that specific section of land. The boardroom doors burst open as reporters began flooding in. Camera flashes filled the room. Ms. Martinez, can you comment on the lithium discovery? What does this mean for the future of energy in Texas? How will this affect the electric vehicle industry? I looked at my brothers, their oil empire suddenly seeming very small and outdated. I believe, I said, turning to face the cameras, it's time for a new kind of energy presentation. The next 24 hours transformed everything. As I stood at the podium of the hastily arranged press conference, satellite trucks lined the desert roads that my family had once dismissed as paths to nowhere. The Martinez Energy Corporation, I announced to the packed room of international media, will be transitioning from oil to become one of the world's largest sustainable energy companies. Behind me, digital screens showed the initial construction plans. A state-of-the-art lithium extraction facility, powered entirely by solar and wind energy. The desert that had been mocked as worthless would soon house the most environmentally friendly mining operation ever created. But this isn't just about lithium, I continued, clicking to the next slide. Our surveys revealed something else. Dr. Chen, would you like to share the findings? My former professor stepped forward, displaying new geological maps. The same formations that created the lithium deposits also produced significant rare earth elements, crucial for everything from smartphones to defense systems. The room erupted with questions. In the back, I could see my family huddled together, their oil empire crumbling as our stock continued to soar. Ms. Martinez, is it true Tesla has already offered $5 billion for exclusive rights? What about the Chinese mining company's bids? Will you be partnering with the Department of Defense? I held up my hand for silence. We've received multiple offers, but this discovery belongs to Texas. We'll be keeping operations domestic, creating thousands of local jobs. And yes, I smiled, we're already in talks with several major tech companies. Thomas pushed his way to the front. Elena, you can't just... This is a family company. Exactly, I replied calmly. Which is why I'm offering to buy out all existing oil operations at triple their market value. We can do this together or I can do it alone. Your choice. The room fell silent. Everyone knew the oil wells were already losing value, their days numbered as the world shifted to electric vehicles. I was offering them a golden parachute and they knew it. There's more, Dr. Chen interjected. Show them the water surveys, Elena. I clicked to the final slide. While mapping the lithium deposits, we discovered an untapped aquifer. Pure, prehistoric water, protected by the same geological formations that created our mineral wealth. Enough to transform this desert into green land, Dad whispered, finally understanding. All those summers you spent with Grandpa. He was teaching me to read the earth, I nodded. Oil was yesterday's treasure. We found tomorrow's. The screens behind me showed the full vision. Sustainable mining operations, solar fields, wind farms, and agricultural projects irrigated by the ancient aquifer. The worthless desert would become an oasis of green technology and sustainable development. Richard stepped forward, his oil company badge suddenly looking obsolete. What do you need from us? Join me, I said simply. Help me build something that will last generations. Something cleaner, better. I turned to face my family directly. The Martinez name doesn't have to mean oil forever. We can be part of the solution. Mom dabbed at her eyes. Your grandfather would be so proud. The press conference continued, but my attention was on the windows behind the reporters. Out there, my desert was already changing. Construction crews were assembling, survey teams mapping, and engineers planning. By next year, those empty dunes would be unrecognizable. My phone buzzed with a message from the Department of Energy. White House briefing tomorrow. President wants to discuss national strategic implications. I smiled, remembering all the times my family had asked when I would do something serious with my life. The worthless desert was about to become the most strategically valuable land in America. One last question, called out a reporter. What made you look where nobody else did? Sometimes, I replied, thinking of Grandpa, the best treasures are hidden in plain sight. You just have to be willing to dig deeper than others. As the press conference wound down, I watched my brothers huddled with their oil executives, finally facing the reality of change. Mom and Dad stood by the window staring out at their transforming world. The desert wind kicked up, sending fresh swirls of sand against the glass. But now everyone knew what lay beneath those dunes. Not just lithium but the future itself. And I, the girl with the worthless inheritance, held the keys to that future in my hands. The real work was just beginning,